give the public a chance to speak, and if no one, we can have the presentation. We'll start the public hearing, have the presentation, and see if anybody wants to speak on behalf of the public. Does that make sense with everyone? And maybe we'll get a 10th member by that time. Jerry, I guess we have to have a roll call for the public hearing.
Del Teague,
Here.
Maria Vieta, Trina McKeever,
Here.
Stephen Chesler,
Here.
Erin Drinkwater,
Here.
Moisha Indig, Bozena Kaminsky, Sante Michelli,
Here.
Rabbi Niederman,
Here.
Karen Nieves, Isaac Sofer, William Vega,
Here.
Simon Weiser,
Here.
Phil Andrews, Keith Berger, Corey Canton, Michael Kowachka, Katie Naplatarski, Allison Stone.
Here.
9 members answering the call.
All right. So the first matter that we're dealing with here is we're, of course, having only one item here, and this is the presentation by Domino for a modification. And let's start the public hearing. So, Mr. Lombino, I think you're presenting.
Yes, thank you. Along
Thank
with
you.
my colleagues, Laura and Bridget, who are also on the call. But thank you, everyone, for coming in the middle of August. I really appreciate it, and we really appreciate it. This will be very familiar to you because we presented virtually the exact presentation to you all in May, on May 10th. And city planning, at that time we thought city planning was going to kind of quickly refer this, but it, like many things, it just took longer than everyone had hoped. So we're back in front of you. This is a minor modification to our original 2014 Domino approval. If you've been by the site, this concerns the building that will be built next, which is the southernmost building on the Domino site, which we hope to have completed in about 2 years. So this, these are very minor changes to that original plan. And again, thanks for your time and dedication to this. Appreciate it. Laura, Bridget, you want to kick it off?
Sure. So I will share my screen quickly. You can all see this.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. And thanks to all the community members for making time for us again. As Dave mentioned, you've seen this presentation at least once. So I'll let you tell me. We're more than happy to run through the presentation briefly again, but also happy to just take questions since you've seen it before. Let me know how you want to proceed. Again, we could do a quick sort of 5 minutes and walk you through the elements here if you'd like.
Well, this is an official public hearing, so
Yeah.
unfortunately or fortunately, you have to go through the whole presentation.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will make it short and sweet.
Thanks, Jerry.
Okay, great. So as Dave mentioned, this is a minor modification to our 2014 Domino approval, general large-scale development. And it concerns just the 2 sites at the southern end of the overall campus, which is what we're referring to as Site D, which is the next mixed-use building, which will be constructed, as well as Domino Square, which is an extension of the public space at Domino Park. So this is an overall plan of what was approved in 2014. And the thing that's being highlighted here is the street width that you can see in red. You can see that the street width, and this is River Street, which is a private street, but very much designed to feel like a public street, and it essentially functions as one. We have now been running the park for just over 3 years, and have gained a lot of experience and insight about what really works well about our original plan and what works less well. So as you can see in the original approval, the street varied from 30 feet wide along most of its length, and it narrows to 20 feet in front of Site B. So in the last 3 years of, 4 million people visiting Domino Park, we've observed a couple of things. These are photographs of River Street in its current state. And you can see that there are 2 lanes for traffic and 1 striped lane. Now, this lane is signed as no standing, no parking, but in reality, what happens is that we very frequently get cars that sit and idle in this location. They are a nuisance, they're sort of a safety hazard for pedestrians and park users. And that parking lane does nothing good and occasionally is really sort of an infringement on users of the park. So what we are proposing to do and modify in this site plan is to take that southern portion, again in front of Domino Square and in front of Site D, and narrow the road width from 30 feet to 25 feet. The additional 5 feet of width would be then gained to the properties on the east side of River Street. And what that translates into is an additional 5 feet for Domino Square, which is open space recreational use. It gains a small amount. I think, Bridget, you can correct me if I'm wrong, something in the neighborhood of an additional 900 square feet of public space. And then the building at Site D also grows by approximately 5 feet. 5 feet to the west, a little bit less to the east and to the southwest and the south, just because of the geometry of this kind of trapezoidal building base. So this is a close-up of that. The roadbed narrows from 30 feet to 25 feet. The sidewalk remains 15 feet throughout. And again, Domino Square gets a little bit bigger and Site D gets a little bit bigger. And here you can see side by side the resulting changes to the building as well. So on the left-hand side, you see the approved ULURP envelope per the 2014 approval. And this, of course, is not a building design, it's an envelope. In that time subsequent, we have actually designed the building. Annabelle Seldorf is the design architect for the building. And as we've gone through, which very frequently happens, there have been lots of tweaks and modifications and developments that have caused us to want to make some slight modifications to the building envelope. And we'll just walk through those kind of one by one. The first thing is that the narrowing of the roadbed means that each of these 2 towers extends by a small amount. The northern tower extends by 5 feet to the west, and the southern tower extends by 2 feet to the south. So each of the towers gets a little bit bigger. This is, I think, negligible, certainly from a urban design perspective. I don't think it's perceptible to anyone. It does, significantly improve the layout of the building and the functionality of the building as a high-rise. And then the other thing that you see in this image, Bridget, we have a separate slide that shows the raising of the podium. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll wait to describe that until the graphic is on the screen. In addition to that, we are eliminating something that we sort of like non-affectionately refer to as the barnacle. One of the challenges that we had was getting the permitted floor area into this building envelope, because these towers are so narrow, these little point towers. It was really difficult to get the allowable FAR. So one of the things that we did in the original approval was create this little kind of bump out to the south, which was a place to have some additional floor area. We never loved it architecturally. Now that the building is fully designed, it really felt like not the right massing move. And because of those changes to the towers, we were able to kind of trade the floor area that was down at this southern bump into the towers. And that means we can reduce and eliminate this little barnacle area on the south. And that's the area that you see shaded in pink. And it does 2 things. It improves the architectural massing of the building as a whole, we believe. But most importantly, I think from an urban design standpoint, it dramatically widens the visual corridor to Domino Park. So this is the southern gateway to Domino Park at South 5th Street. And that number is a little hard to read, but basically the building mass reduces by 24 feet there. So when you're on Kent Avenue looking towards the water, you have a much broader view of the park and of the river. What we're seeing in green here is the raising of the podium along the angled portion of South 5th Street. Again, this is driven very much by architectural design considerations. It was felt that the kind of base at the podium here used to be 45 feet high. Now we're proposing that it be 65 feet high. Would like to note that that 65 feet is within the prescribed kind of as of right building envelope. We just wanted to show people that the intended design now is taller there. And it was really felt that this was kind of a more appropriate anchor and base for those two towers above. And then finally, this is the overall 3D massing as proposed now. And Bridget, sorry, remind me again, do we have another slide that talks about the tower tops, or is this a good place to?
I think we have another side-by-side image of the two
Okay.
buildings towards the end, but we can go back if not.
Okay, great. And then this is just a plan diagram that very clearly spells out the modifications at the ground. What you see there is that in the bright green is the area that the building is expanding, and in the pink is the area where at the ground level, the building is reducing. And here, as Bridget said, side by side, on the left-hand side, you see the approved ULURP envelope. On the right-hand side, you see the proposed building massing. I will note the other change that's being made, and again, it's not does not require any additional waiver, but did want to bring people's attention to it. Originally, the approval called for a screening of the mechanical equipment that would be at the same footprint as the towers and extend as high as the equipment, so it would not be visible at the roof. What we're proposing instead is the stepped massing that you see at the right-hand side. The equipment will all still be architecturally screened, but the Seldorf architecture team really felt that the stepping back of the towers at the top was a more appropriate and kind of graceful termination of their architecture. And we think that, you know, when you see this kind of view from the water side by side, that the proportions of the towers feel more comfortable to us. And finally, these are a couple of views from the street that illustrate the impact of the removal of that barnacle piece at the very southern end. On the left-hand side, again, is a pedestrian viewpoint showing the approved envelope. And on the right-hand side, we take away that podium height massing. We get rid of that, and you can see here that there's kind of a dramatic and improved visual corridor into Domino Park. And should note too that that area then becomes an additional public access area, and it's going to be landscaped and have some seating available. And this is a plan of that PAA. And I believe, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, Bridget, this is the only part of the presentation that has changed at all since the last time you guys saw it. And it's quite a modest adjustment. But one of the things that we were doing with city planning from our original application to what was finally certified was looking at the landscape plan for this new PAA at the southern end of the site. And what we're showing here, where this is a difficult area to landscape because you're navigating quite a dramatic grade change from Kent Avenue. The street at South 5th Street really dips down pretty dramatically as it approaches the water. And what's shown here is a PAA that has a series of stepping areas and benches, as well as plantings. And again, there's a clear view to the park and also places for people to stop and rest and sit.
That's it.
And that's
our presentation.
So happy to go back to any of the images and take any specific questions that anybody may have.
I have a question. What is the advantage of raising the podium? The advantage to the design and to the community?
Well, again, and Bridget, maybe you could go back to, I think maybe the slide where we actually show the heightened podium is best. This is really an architectural decision. And I don't know, I'm sorry, Bridget, I know I just told you to go to this slide. If we look at the side by side as well, I think what you can see here is that, you know, so these are the towers are quite tall, 535 feet, 435 feet, the same height that they were in the original approval. We really felt that that 45-foot podium as River Street turns the corner just felt like too thin a base. You know, in the zoning code, there's both the kind of minimum and maximum base heights for that kind of street level, that kind of, you know, street wall. And we really felt like this just felt like a more comfortable proportion. There's also some articulation, and Bridget, sorry, if you would go back to the other slide. There's some architectural articulation of this building. The base is treated quite differently than the towers. There is both a different material and a different fenestration pattern and a different scale of fenestration. And this felt like a better termination at the street. There's also, you know, the relationship between the building base and the bridge base. This is a pretty unusual urban condition where you're kind of right up at the anchorage to the Williamsburg Bridge. And again, this is, you know, maybe, you know, people could argue it's a little bit subjective, but we felt that this was a more comfortable and appropriate kind of anchorage for those tall towers above.
And what's inside that area of the building?
That's residential floor area.
Does it change, raising the podium, does it change what it's like inside?
I wouldn't say changes what it's like inside. I mean, it's the same program. It's residential floor area. There is going to be building resident access to a roof terrace there. I think, you know, you could argue it's a little bit nicer to be a little bit higher relative to the street road bed. But as I say, I think this was really primarily driven by kind of the architectural massing considerations.
Was the Barnacle residential?
Yeah, Barnacle was residential. And the Barnacle was a little bit, you know, again, that also, it's our architectural design choice. There's a little bit of a floor area penalty, but the podium allows us to recapture some of that area, and the extension of the building, because of the narrowing of the road bed, that 5 foot and 2 foot extension of the towers is, you know, kind of the trade-off that we make there.
And the narrowing of the road, are you taking away that parking lane? Is that what's happening?
Yes, yeah. So what's going to happen on that road now is that the parking lane goes away altogether. Because again, it was never intended to be parking, and what was the road bed at 30 feet was driven, I think, primarily by FDNY standards. You know, FDNY prefers a 30-foot road bed. They obviously have reviewed and signed off on this, so it is, you know, approved by FDNY. So, you know, on the one hand, FDNY wants a wide road bed for their trucks. We've also been talking to DOT, and, you know, they made it clear that from a kind of pedestrian enhancement of these kinds of small streets, they prefer a narrower roadbed because it ends up serving pedestrians better. And again, our primary aim was to get rid of what had, you know, that no standing zone, no parking zone, which had essentially become a place for people to illegally idle their cars.
So the parking lane is not supposed to be used for parking?
I shouldn't call it a parking lane. That's terrible terminology. It's a no parking lane, and people idle there. So that will go away, and there will be 2 lanes of traffic, and that's it.
Did all of the Barnacle floor area go to the podium? Or I didn't understand that, or did some of it go to the height of the building?
It's not really, I guess that's a hard way to think about it. It's not really that the you know, in the end, the building floor area kind of is what it is. It has a slightly different shape now. It's smaller at the south, it's taller in the podium, the towers are a little bit bigger. The overall floor area of this building is slightly bigger than it was previously, but it's still within the, you know, it's within the FAR approved for the site. Previously, we had had a very difficult time getting the amount of floor area into the site. We also, and again, you know, there's all these places that we kind of made these design trade-offs. We obviously gave up a little bit of floor area at the top of the building where we had the 2 towers step back because we felt that that was architecturally beneficial. So in all of these cases, it's not really a take this floor area and put it somewhere else in the building. It's more a, here's the overall number, what do we think is the best way to mass it kind of approach, I think.
All right, I have a couple questions, Del, if that's all right.
Sure.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for the presentation. The I guess now that with the setback at the top of the towers, kind of the revealed top stories, what will those be used for? And will the setback on the roof will be a terrace, that'll be available to residents or maybe a commercial use?
Yeah, both of the tower tops are entirely residential floor area. They're just apartments. They're just a slightly smaller footprint. And there's a material change. So the apartments are designed slightly differently, but it's just residential floor area. And at the north tower, there is enough room at the top of the tower for a little bit of resident access in the form of a roof terrace. At the south tower, there's really very little room. So it's really just maintenance access for the elevator overrun and mechanical equipment at the top of the south tower.
Okay. All right. And then is there going to be affordable units included in this development? And
Yes, we're still in the initial stages of our application with HPD, but yes, there will be affordable units in this building.
do you have percentages yet on?
These numbers we're still figuring it out. I would say we're looking at roughly 120 units. And I think we're around 560 in overall. So we're over 20% right now. We're still figuring it out with HPD.
And how will they be dispersed amongst the?
That, you mean in terms of,
Yeah, like will it be stuck in the podium, or will they be?
No, it goes throughout, there's all HPD requirements, so it's scattered, throughout the levels of the building. We're still working that all out with HPD. We're just really in the initial stages, but no, it'll be throughout the site.
Okay.
And just would note too, as in all of our buildings, in this building as well, all of the affordable units will be finished and amenitized in exactly the same way as the market rate units.
Okay, great. And then just one, in terms of the, what type of material are you using for the cladding and, what color? I thought I saw on that one of the ground floor slide that it was going to be white. Is that,
Yeah, it's I wish there were, these are very Bridget's been working for months now on renderings. It turns out that these are quite difficult materials to render. So at the base of the podium, the base of the building, the podium is a granite. It's a natural granite. It's very beautiful. It's kind of it's gray. It's not white. It's kind of a gray granite. It's a natural stone material. And then the towers themselves, the two towers are clad in a ceramic glazed tile that has kind of this iridescent finish. It's quite beautiful, we think. Very, very difficult to capture in rendering form, as it turns out.
okay. All right. Thanks.
I have a couple of questions too, if nobody's in line.
Sure.
Hi. Yeah, Laura, just I can't remember where are the official entrances of these two towers? Are they on West Street or on River Street?
There's two entrances to the two towers. The one to the north tower is on South 4th Street. And the entrance to the entrance to the north tower is on South 4th Street. And the entrance to the south tower is kind of in that pink area where that, the barnacle was removed. It's right there in that zone where the PAA is located.
I see. Yeah, I don't know if I have a question, but maybe just a comment, because I understood the fact, because of wanting to re-articulate the building, and there is a lot of subjectiveness probably in that purpose. I still wondering if that 5 feet, I know the illegality, and I don't know if that was based on just on observation or what happened along the years, or it's been a real traffic study, but I'm still wondering, despite the fact that it's going to bring a certain density, so it's going to have a demographic impact in the neighborhood, and definitely in terms of traffic and how this traffic is going to flow. We cannot neglect the fact that probably the building is going to bring certain vehicular traffic there. And despite the fact that people has been idling or not, and that's a common occurrences, I still believe that 5 feet may be extremely important, because we're going to have certainly car going there for different purposes, from maintenance from taxes to who knows whatever reason, and maybe that 5 feet can become very important to slim the traffic that will reflow back on West Street. And if nobody can double park there, so I'm still uncertain about. So I understand the minimal impact, but I still, I don't think I will have enough tools and information from the presentation tonight to really make a proper evaluation how valuable are 5 feet in such a high density building in a street that serves such high density buildings. Those are my comments for the committees.
I'd like to, just to add to what Sante is saying. How is it that you are so sure that you won't need that extra lane if someone needs to stop, if there may be deliveries, what is it based on that you feel that you will not need that extra no parking, no standing lane?
Well, I would say a couple of things. As I said, I think the original impetus for this was born out of our kind of managing the park and the property as a whole over the last 3.5 years now. We have staff there every day who kind of see what happens on the street. So again, the 30 feet was originally driven by FDNY. Their preference is 30 feet. There are parts of the Domino campus where the street narrows to 20 feet for a number of kind of urban design reasons. There's always a little bit of this tension between what kind of DCPO likes the narrower street, DOT likes the narrower street. We, having observed kind of how the site really functions on the ground, think that the narrow street is preferred. And FDNY, again, approved it given the different, configuration that we've demonstrated to them that their trucks could very safely turn around and service all the buildings as needed. I think it's a combination of, for us, kind of the evidence of having managed the site. And then beyond that, I think we would defer to sort of the expertise of DOT. So we had a number of meetings with the folks there and about kind of, traffic management versus pedestrian amenities. And they were also very much in favor of the street narrowing, right? This is their preferred configuration. So I think for us, it's what we've observed, and then also our kind of reliance on the expertise of the DOT folks. And then I would also note too, of course, we have an environmental study that was originally done, and as part of this modification application, there was a tech memo that analyzed all of the proposed modifications. That is, of course, part of our application.
The environmental study approved the narrower street?
Yes, it did.
Also, I have an additional question, Laura, if you can answer that. Did we already establish where city bike, conventional electric bike, or any other new bike vehicles is going to be placed in order to serve this building? And also, I can't remember how many units and how many residents each building is envisioned to have.
Yeah, so this building, like we did at Site A, we are providing more than the code required amount of bike parking, because this, we know from having built and leased up lots of buildings here, this is a super bike intensive neighborhood, which is great. At Site A, we did a really purpose designed bike storage where there's like a ramp that you can ride in off the street, and there's lots of really great amenities for riders, and we're providing that in this building as well. I don't know off the top of my head the number of spaces, although we can certainly follow up and give you that information. I do know that it's more than code required.
No, my question maybe was a little bit more specific. Did we identify where potential city bike station will be placed in regard to this building?
No, I don't know. Bridget, do you know anything about City Bike at this I don't know anything.
No, I don't. I mean, the bike lane is on Kent, so I don't know if they've ever.
And how many
It's
residents?
all private land. I don't know if they've ever spoken about it.
How many residents was each building envisioned to have?
I don't know residents, we could look into that. I don't know the number of residents off the top of my head. I think we have dwelling units per building, but I don't know if we necessarily
I
have.
mean, as a bike user, just another observation for the committee. I don't know if it's valuable or not to have. Definitely what happened here frequently, we ran out of bikes. So I'm assuming that the street location where we can sit bike, and sometime I had to walk if I want to use an electric bike, we can find one, and even a conventional bike. So I kept walking on Kent, in order to, to try to find a bike, sometime unsuccessfully in rush hours. So I'm wondering, that's why I was asking, what is going to be the population of each building? Because definitely something we are short of. It's sometime, and we pay the price. So having city bikes sometime in place where we shouldn't have it. So I don't know if the 5 feet potentially in the future, I don't know if it now, but along the way it could turn very useful for potential city bike locations. So losing now the space, yeah, those are my concern, definitely. Not so much about car. We don't want to have car, but car and vehicle will have to serve the building. But certainly, if car and vehicle we don't want to have there, we don't want to have them idling there. But do we want to have additional city bike station, which the building are very big, and I'm for sure we're gonna need as many city bike location, and most likely they're not gonna be sufficient to serve this building.
Where is the, Bridget, you would know because you're always riding here. Where is the nearest city?
There's one right next to 325 Kent if you go up South 4th Street.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the closest one.
Oh, right, there's, yeah.
Just for the committee to keep this in consideration, yeah, that we.
I just want to make it, get myself clear on this. I think what you're saying is valuable, Sante, but I don't think this is something that's before us today with this application.
Okay, just, I believe the question was, to
I
question
think it's
why.
fine. I think it's a fine question, but I just want to make sure that we understand that this is not, as far as I can understand, this is not a part of the modification that is before us tonight.
Del, I have another question. It's Trina.
Sure.
What is the width for the northern building? I don't know if that's site A, I can't remember what letter it is, but the width of the street, and how does that relate to what you're doing at the southern end in terms of losing the footage?
Yeah, so originally, Bridget, would you go back to our first slide of the original approval? So this was what was approved in 2014, and you can see that the street here is 30 feet everywhere except at that one parcel between South First and South Second Street. And so in the next slide, you'll see the modification, which is it's 30 feet, it's a little bit of everything now. 30 feet in front of site A, it's 20 feet in front of site B, 30 feet at the refinery, and now 25 feet at the southern end.
Well, I guess my question is, was there a use for a wider street where you've got the building occupied? Is there a reason to think that once you build on this site, there might be more of a need for the wider street that isn't there now?
No, I mean, I think that was the purpose, of course, of the environmental study and the tech memo that we did when we proposed this site change was, did all of the environmental analysis again. As I said, the original width was really driven by FDNY requirements more than anything else. And we have modified in such a way that FDNY is okay with it. We did discuss whether it would be advantageous to narrow that to 25 feet in front of the refinery as well. And then the decision, we relied on sort of our traffic experts and consultants on this and our civil engineering consultants. The decision there was that because the refinery is a large commercial building, we envision more kind of deliveries and circulation of traffic around there. And we thought it was advisable to keep the 30 feet at the refinery, but that, the southern end of the site could benefit from the narrowing of the street and with that, we would rather have that space be allocated to the recreational space of Domino Square than to the street and this, no parking lane.
So what will happen to the street refinery? What's going to happen? Will you still have a wider street there?
Yeah, it's going to be as it is right now.
Okay, so you're not, the street will not be narrowed uniformly from beginning to end?
Correct. And the street never was uniform. Again, it was, it was 30 feet, narrowed to 20 feet, expanded back out to 30 feet in its original incarnation. And that's actually the way it has been built, right? So if you go out there right now, what you see is a street that is per the 2014 approval. Again, this is how the street has been currently built. So what we're proposing is that at the very southern end of the site, that street will be 5 feet narrower. Everything else will remain as shown here.
So from what street to what street will this?
The narrowing begins.
Yeah, the narrowing.
The narrowing begins at South 4th Street. Sorry, excuse me, I misspoke. South 3rd Street. It narrows to 25 feet on the block between South 3rd and South 4th, and in the block between South 4th and South 5th. It's those two blocks where the street will be narrowed from 30 feet to 25 feet.
South 3rd to South 5th.
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
There's still 30 feet at the southern end where the building is. Am I reading it right?
Can you zoom in, Bridget?
Sure.
There. So the 30 feet at the refinery remains as it is. And the
I'm talking about
reduction,
the southern, or I'm sorry, the northernmost building.
yeah,
you have
that's
to-
again remaining as is. I mean, I
Yeah,
think to
30
be
feet.
perfectly honest, if we were to build site A today, we might very well make this same proposal. It
Right.
just, we didn't know at the time, it was always designed to be 30 feet. We built it, we built the park, and we were like, this isn't great. It could be better. So no, we're certainly not going to go back and change anything that's already built. And again, we discussed doing this change at the refinery, but really felt that given the commercial use of the refinery, that it made more sense to leave the additional width there.
So if say you had an inclination to modify another part of River Street, you would have to go through another special permit process? Or could you just propose it through DOT?
No, it would be this, the same as this, because it's part of that general large scale approval. That's the nature of this modification, I assume would be the same. I don't foresee that happening just because, the big building now, the refinery, as everyone has seen in the neighborhood, is well on its way under construction. Site A, of course, is complete. So I think we're kind of done massaging the street.
Right, right.
And you have, it seems, there's a piece of the roadway that is just 20 feet right now.
Yeah.
So is there no parking, no standing lane at that point?
No, Bridget, maybe you know better than me because you've been, I can't.
Yeah, I'm trying to picture standing out there right now.
Picture exactly what happens there, and we can go take a look and
Yeah.
send some pictures. I don't want to answer that because I'm not 100% sure. I can't quite picture it right now.
Yeah, there's no parking anywhere though on this street.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't recall right now exactly how the striping pattern works along the entire length. We could probably look at it on Google and see very quickly. I can't remember.
Any other questions? Any non-committee members here to ask questions? There are no questions, then we can adjourn the public hearing and we can proceed to our committee meeting.
Just want to thank everybody again for making time for us in the middle of August. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Welcome. All right, Jerry, I guess do we need to take a roll call again? I know we have,
I mean, if you like, I believe you might have 10 now.
I think we do. I think, I see that Isaac Selfer is here. So do we, in order to confirm that, do we have to actually start all over and take another,
I mean, whatever you like. If you want me to, I'll run a quick roll call if you like.
I think it's, you know, I think we can see who's here. I see that Isaac Selfer joined us.
I think we lost Simon.
I'm sorry,
I think we lost Simon.
we lost Simon? Simon, are you still here? Apparently not. All right, yes, we have to have a roll call.
I'll text them to see if we could get them back.
Okay, thank you, because that would give us a quorum. So
Is Dave from Two Trees still here?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Is Dave from Two Trees still here? I guess not. I was just wondering at what point, given the River Ring approval in the ULURP process, does Two Trees actually put the money up for the offsite 120 units of elderly affordable housing?
Well, that's a good question. I don't think Dave is here anymore.
It'd be good to know.
Yeah, I agree. Wasn't that contingent on the city coming up with some land?
Word has it they're still negotiating the final amount of land, extra floor area they can get in compensation.
Maybe we can ask for an update from Two Trees, seeing as we're doing them the favor of meeting right now.
Sure, we can update. We can ask them to come to we can invite them to our next committee meeting if we want to.
And that was such a big component of the ULURP approval. It'd be good to know when it's actually going to happen.
Yes.
Well, mind if I just bring something up about the application, or do you want prefer waiting for the roll call and Simon?
Oh, no, you can bring something up.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, I personally really not that concerned. It just seems like they're just rearranging the clay of the street and the buildings. But I guess, channeling Tom Burrows, a little bit worried about the rooftop usage. It'd be a prime spot for a restaurant bar situation, in either tower, which they didn't really have. I mean, they could have had that before without the kind of setback, but it seems like it's more available to them to do that with this design. And, they wouldn't be alone in doing that, but I just wonder, in terms of noise and quality of life, if, that's, be worth noting in our recommendation, that if we require that it remain residential only or not have a commercial space or, which I don't know what the zoning allows up there, but
So you're saying that you would like to recommend that the rooftop usage would remain residential and not become commercial, not used commercially? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, or at least with some sort of mitigation in terms of hours and noise and that kind of thing.
Now, we're only talking about the towers that they're talking about in this modification, those two
That's right.
towers.
Because I think they said the podium roof is going to be for the residents, if I understood
Right.
correctly. Yeah.
Right.
And they kind of implied that the towers would be as well, but I just maybe,
It wasn't a hard no. It was-
no.
Well, we can just recommend that it remains for residential usage and not
Yeah.
to be used commercially.
Yeah, because I mean, we're in like Bushwick in the Park, you can just hear the thumping of the music from rooftop bars, you know.
Sorry, we got disconnected, Simon.
Thank you, Simon.
You voted
and that's
already?
for residents.
All right, so Jerry, we have 10 now. Is it necessary to have a roll call? I think we can see that we have 10 people.
No, if you concede that there's a quorum, then proceed.
All right, let's proceed. So Simon, the one thing that was brought up, Steve recommended that if we approve this, that we recommend that the rooftop usage of the towers that were before us today, that they remain for residential use and not be used commercially.
Right, can agree, right.
Yeah. Anybody disagree?
No.
All right. Okay. So do we want to vote on this at this point? Do we want to vote to approve with this recommendation?
Sure.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that the application be approved with this recommendation that rooftop usage of the towers will remain for residential use and not commercial use.
I'll second.
I second.
Okay,
Just,
Trina seconded. So we need a vote.
can I ask, just make a point, you don't mind, make it fast. Just the question would be like, the question would be is that using the rooftop and like the hours and like, won't it disturb other neighbors? I mean, this is a general question, you know.
Well, we're recommending that it just be residential, that there not
Oh,
be any commercial use.
Oh, okay, fine, okay, you can vote on it, fine, sorry, go.
I think for the reasons that Simon just reeled off there. I think those are, yeah,
Right.
you know, disturbing neighbors and residents and
And park users.
park users, yeah.
Yep. Okay, can we have a roll call vote?
And when you say rooftop, you mean rooftops,
Yes,
correct? Okay.
yes, rooftop usage of the towers.
Okay. Del T,
Yes.
Maria Vieta, Trina McKeever,
Yes.
Stephen Chesler,
Yes,
Aaron Drinkwater.
Yes.
Aaron Drinkwater? I'm sorry, Aaron, I missed your vote. Someone
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Moisha Indig, Bozena Kaminsky, Sante Mutzelli,
Yes.
Rabbi Needleman,
Yes.
Karen Nieves, Isaac Sulfur,
Yes.
William Vega. William Vega,
William says thumbs up.
okay. Yes vote will be noted. Simon Weiser,
Yes.
Michael Andrews, Keith Berger, Corey Canton, Michael Kowachka, Katie Napolitarski, Allison Stone. There goes our quorum. Allison Stone? Nine members voting. We do not have a quorum to continue to vote.
But did everyone who's here vote? Jerry, I'd like to get votes from everyone, because if we don't have a quorum, at least they can, the committee can agree that I can present.
She was, Ms. Stone was the last member being called, so that's,
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay,
that would have been the 10th vote.
okay, great.
Can I ask a question? Sorry, Jerry. Please mute yourself. Whoever's talking there. Yeah, my question is, if beginning of the meeting we had a quorum, I mean, I don't know the rule of law. Just can you clarify this?
The rule of law is you have a quorum until you don't, and we don't.
Yeah, but the beginning of the meeting is all right. Whatever. But I just thought it,
So, there was the possibility, if we had a quorum, of, the committee discussing whether the application was so, moderate that perhaps we could, the committee might vote to do away with, having to have a full board meeting, but we don't have the quorum, so I don't think we can do that. And I will say that the vote on this has to be in before, I think, the 29th. Is that right, Jerry?
August 29th.
Yeah. So, can I take it that those of you who are here, authorize me to make this recommendation that, as we said, as we voted on, to approve with the recommendation about rooftop usage only being residential? Yes. Any problem with that? No. Okay. Ms. Fuller, our chairperson, is here, and so I don't know what time, what the date will be for the full board hearing. That will be up to our chair. I will tell you that I'm going to be away on vacation from the 22nd to the 25th of August.
we have to meet in August.
Well, we don't have a quorum here now. We lost our quorum.
Well, could we try, could we try to get hold of the sorry, Jerry, but could you try to could anybody try to call those members that were present at the beginning of the meeting? Is it possible? Because I'm sure it'd be hard for many members to attend without just finding out now about a meeting that they will have other schedules. It may disrupt their plans of a vacation or whatever.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I had to get out and get back because I'm having problems with internet, so I'm here. And also, I won't be back. I'm going to Hawaiian Islands, as I mentioned before, so I won't be back until September. So.
Oh, nice. Well, I hope you have a great time.
Exciting.
We will.
Listen, I don't even know if it would be okay to do what I said, but we could have discussed it if we had a quorum.
Is the chair among the meeting? Is she?
Yes,
Ms. Fuller?
yes, Ms. Fuller is here.
Ms. Fuller, could you vote on this? Is she counted as a member? I mean, I'm counted. I could vote any meeting. I'm the first vice chair. I could vote any committee. I'm sure the chair has the same benefit. No.
I break ties.
That's it.
Yeah, that's right. That's it.
How are you? How are you, Chair?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for asking. How's everybody?
Good.
Hope you're enjoying
Good.
your summer.
Mhm.
Thank you for
Nice
coming
to,
and taking your time to come to this meeting tonight.
nice to hear your voice.
Thank you so much.
Likewise.
Thank you.
I thank you all for coming, and I also hope everybody's having a good summer, as hot as it is. Look, we have our vote. I don't really want to keep you all longer than I have to. So, I'll prepare my report.
Hey, Dell,
And-
it's
yes.
it's Katie. I'm not a member of the group, but I was just about to reach out to Allison Stone, to see if she could hop back on. Do you want to wait a minute, or is it not worth it?
Yes.
We need Isaac too,
Which Isaac?
Sofer.
I'll get
You
him
need
on.
2 more people? Okay.
So then the question is whether then the question will be whether the committee will want to vote to ask the chair to share our recommendation with the executive committee and to see if the executive committee would
Yeah,
go
can-
along
can-
with
can-
not calling the full board.
Was that a question for me, Dale? I didn't get it.
Not exactly a question. If we get the quorum, then I think if I'm understanding it correctly, if the committee could vote to approve with this one recommendation, and the committee could vote to refer the recommendation to you and to see if it would be acceptable to just to dispense with the need for a full
Isaac.
committee and just to give it to the executive committee for approval. Hi, Isaac. Thank you for coming back.
Did you vote on this item?
So, I think Allison Stone was the only one who didn't vote.
Can you, the Chair, could you tell Isaac what this is about, please? Get his vote before you lose him again?
Isaac voted already, Mr. Weiser.
Yeah, Isaac voted.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you needed.
Yeah. It's just Allison who hasn't voted.
Oh, somebody said it, Isaac. We need Isaac. I'm sorry about Isaac.
We need
Okay.
Isaac just to discuss whether to ask Cialis and the executive committee to consider dispensing with the need for the full board. But I need a quorum of the committee to even vote on that.
That's something we don't normally do, Dell. We generally go with a full board vote.
Okay, then I guess, Cialis, then I guess I'll make my report and you'll call a full board meeting.
Yeah.
It has to be before August 29th.
Our board meeting is the 13th of September.
Okay, so no, it has to be before that. It would have to be in August.
Well, I don't know if we can have a board meeting, people out of town. We have a board meeting, we might not have a quorum there either.
Well, we might not, but I don't know what to say. We're here, we met, we had a quorum, we've voted, and in order to timely submit a vote to city planning, it has to be done before August 29th.
But what about if we don't submit a vote?
Well, then we don't have a say, then they won't get,
Defaults to approval, I think.
yeah, then.
Unconditionally.
Yeah. I mean, is there any precedent in the board history for the executive committee approving a land use item? In lieu of the full board doing it or ratifying it at the next meeting?
Not to my knowledge.
All right, then,
Dale, other question, and maybe to Jerry. does just a committee recommendation, despite the fact we may have difficulty to have a full board meeting and they didn't have a quorum, do they count in any way with city planning, considering the special situation in which this is happening?
I don't know how we would even get this to city planning, you know? It's, I mean, city planning has told us that even if we come in late with, if the community board comes in late with a recommendation, they would still consider it. But that's always a risk we take, right? At this point, I don't know what else the committee can do. We've had our meeting.
Can a letter go to city planning asking them to wait for the CB1's recommendation until after the 13th when the full board meeting is? At least then they're aware of it and they know that that there is a recommendation that will come.
And what about 2 trees acknowledging this recommendation, which may be completely in line, and despite the comments brought by Steve, you know, is something which 2 trees is in line entirely about the rooftop. And so what about their acknowledging already that they're in line also with this recommendation, despite the lack of quorum?
So Jerry, is there anything we can do to notify city planning that we had the meeting and this is what the committee voted on?
I mean, the whole point is it'll be non-conforming because you have a review period and the recommendation will not be provided within the review period.
Right. I'm hoping that we can have a full board meeting before August 29th. But that's not, you know, that would be up to, I guess, up to Dallas and hoping that we get a quorum. Did we have a possible date to the full board meeting in case we needed it in August? Jerry?
It was today,
The full board meeting.
August 9th.
Jerry, what do you recommend?
Now, since we've exhausted our options here, maybe you just need to just tell them we can't get it in at this time because you didn't have a quorum. And we passed our board meeting period for the summer. And we just don't see how we can get a board meeting in before our September meeting. And plus, you can, like you said you can get it in afterwards, get the recommendation in afterwards. So it seemed like the option might be to, after our board meeting, you get our recommendation in afterwards and let them consider it. Then if they don't consider it, then you bring them back and put them to task on what you asked for.
All right, well, there's nothing further that the committee can do at this point.
Does anyone have the phone number for Dave Lombino to get him on the call to see if he'll concede the issue? Because your motion is to accept the recommendation, to accept their proposal. So if you can get 2 trees to come back on the call to concede the fact that they won't use the rooftops for non-residential use, then it's a win-win.
Does anybody have his phone number?
Katie, do you have it?
Yeah, I can text him. Hold on.
I actually have his phone number. Let me call him. No, he didn't answer, and his mailbox is full.
He looked like he was going places.
Yeah, I mean, I reached out to him and I reached out to Allison, but I haven't heard back from either of them.
Well, I don't know what else we can do except, I do wish, Allison Stone could be gotten back, so at least then we could have a vote from a quorum, official vote. Anyone have her number?
Yeah, Dell, I texted her, and she didn't respond. I mean, she's got a little one, so maybe she's putting them in bed.
All right, and you did text her to ask her to join us again, to come back on?
I did, yeah.
All right,
And I think Dave is coming back on.
okay.
Hi, I'm back.
Thank you, Dave.
No problem.
So, everyone agreed to recommend approval, but we have a recommendation that, and a request that the rooftop usage of either of these towers would remain residential and would not be used commercially. We're concerned about the noise with commercial use.
Okay.
Would that be acceptable?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we have, it's hard for me to imagine they're strictly residential use.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. Now, we may not be able to have a full board meeting before the 29th, but at least if you're willing to accept that, then I don't think there's a problem with sending in our recommendation late, in September to city planning, and because we know that you've agreed to that, and there were no objections to the application.
Okay, terrific. That
All
seems
right.
like a good solution.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for coming back.
No, sorry, I had to duck out.
That's fine.
Thanks again.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Okay. All right, everyone. I'll make a report, submit it, and mention that Dave agreed that the usage is only planned to be residential.
Del, can I just ask one question?
Sure.
This is at least the second August that we've had to come into a meeting where I feel like this has happened. And I wonder if it's not worth asking the executive committee to maybe look at the bylaws to see if there's anything that would allow for a situation where we don't have a quorum, move forward, where the chair can make a recommendation, something along those lines.
You're going in and out, Aaron. I didn't hear your full question.
Just to say that we've been in this situation before, and perhaps it's an opportunity, Del, to make a recommendation to the executive committee to take a look at the community board's bylaws, to be able to put into place some mechanism that we're able to ensure that the community board's voice is heard in these matters, either through the chair's recommendation or some other mechanism. But I think that's something that the executive committee should really take up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's up to the executive committee or the bylaws committee,
Fair.
Do you know if there's anything in the bylaws that seems to allow that?
We already have, when we do our calendar for July and August, we do have dates in that calendar in case you have to have a board meeting. You just happen to miss the date on this one.
Okay.
I think,
Erin, if you have a particular recommendation, the procedure for changing the bylaws is for the proposer to send the proposed change to the bylaws to the board chair, and then the board chair sends the recommendation to the bylaws committee to review and report out.
Understood. Okay.
All right. Thanks, everyone. I will mention that it did seem at one point that that city planning was going to be able to hold this off, but then that didn't happen. So, all right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Yes.
Del, you may want to reflect that in your recommendation, that this is unfortunate that the city planning commission.
I'm sorry for interrupting. I just want to know, are we still needed?
Just
Can I sign off?
2 minutes, Rabbi. 2 minutes.
2 minutes? Okay,
Just
fine,
2
no
minutes, yeah.
problem.
So what I was saying is that it should be, you may want to note in the committee's in the report that we're sick and tired of city planning shoving stuff down our throat when it's an item that could have easily waited another 2 weeks, which was per your mind's conversation with city planning commission.
Yep.
yeah, because then, yeah, a year ago, I believe, I don't know which application it was River Rain or another one, but in light of our recess, they extended our review period, I think, like 2 months or something like that into the fall.
Yeah. We asked, and we got mixed messages from city planning. I'll just put it that way. It appeared that they were going to wait the extra 2 weeks, and then they didn't. So. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Del. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your summer. Have a good evening. Be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.